Mitch Barnhart, the Director of Athletics at the University of Kentucky.
Can you expand a little bit on that? Because I remember from the stage you talked about love, and you want to make that really clear. What does that mean to you, and how does that permeate your leadership?
Yeah, I think love's a word we toss around pretty flippantly. You know, I love mashed potatoes. Love mashed potatoes; they're the best. But I'm not sure that's the right context. Love, as I've described it for my staff, and as I've described it hopefully for my family at home, love is a commitment of my will to your best interest and your best abilities, no matter what the cost. So that means that I will commit myself to making sure that you are fully using your abilities and your interest, and that we maximize those abilities and interests for you, your family, your job, at no matter what the cost it costs me to get that done. So I've got to do that. I've got to pour into those people in different fashions. That could be some kind of knowledge. That could be some kind of an emotional investment. That could be just some kind of a physical presence in your life. Love is defined in a lot of ways. To me, love is a commitment of your will if you're going to be successful.
So you don't just say it, it's an action.
It has to be. Has to be. Love can't be, you know, and I don't want to get goofy here. It's not something I'm trying to be trite or goofy or, oh, he's a touchy-feely guy. If people know me well, they know me. I'm a very passionate person with regards to competitiveness or anything like that, and I believe toughness wins games. So don't blend those two messages. You have to have passion and toughness and to do the things that we do in terms of winning. But that's born out of love. You do it out of other reasons, it fails. It fails. The greatest leaders in the world, and I don't care who you can point to, they have moved people, not with things. They have moved people with emotion and with relationship. It's relational. And the only way to do that is for people to fully know that it's not, there's nothing, no maneuvering, there's no backhand, no backdoor stuff. It is absolutely straightforward. I care about you. I'm going to make you your best. And when you do that, you give me your best, we'll be great.
Is that concept, your will for others, is that something you developed along the way?
No,
Where did you get that?
It's biblical. It's biblical. I mean, people want to, you know, and that's where my lens comes from. It is biblical. No one wants to talk about that. Everyone's got their lens, and it's, ooh, baby, that's a little unsafe to say those kind of things. All right. There's leadership books, and I'll say philosophically, and again, this can get the cut out or not, you know, the reality of it is, from my lens, strictly my lens, it's the way I view the world. You know, there's thousands and thousands and thousands of leadership books. Read them. They're all out there. You can Google the word leadership and you'll get 1 million hits. And everybody thinks they've got the key that unlocks the gate. For me, they all come back to some biblical leadership. And so if I look at the way that the great leaders of the world have moved organizations, for me, it looks like biblical leadership to me.
What is your, and it may just tie into what you just said, or maybe it's in addition to, I was going to ask you what your leadership oath is, your mantra. I feel like it ties into that. But are there other areas that people know you stand for in terms of? You know?
No, I mean, you know, I think again, it starts with that commitment of my will to people. I think you've got to Kevin's point and Joe's point, as we visited a little bit earlier today, it is about being empathetic to people. You've got to understand that you've got people that have needs. That you've got to have an understanding of patience in today's world. You know, you've got to have those things or you can't make it. I had a woman ask me a question in Columbus, Ohio. I was doing a speech up there to a group, and she raised her hand, and she was probably in her mid-70s. And she said, what is the thing that keeps you up at night? I said, we're chasing culture we can't catch. She said, what do you mean by that? I said, every day I think we've caught up to a place where we can sort of take our breath, and we've sort of got things under control, and we sort of got our morals right, we've got our thoughts right, we've got our actions right, and everything like that. Culture changes, and it moves in another direction. And all of a sudden we're chasing again. We're chasing, and we're chasing something new, whether that's in our youth today. And frankly, what ends up happening is, whether it's an employee or whether it is a student in our program, they come with more stuff on their plate than ever before. Financial issues, personal family issues, someone died in their family, They just got injured and they can't play their sport anymore the way they used to play it. What are you doing with all those kinds of things that pop up in everybody's world? And so I say that because when those situations arise, you must present yourself in a fashion that you understand and you can empathize with where they are, and you can help move them to a next spot to help be the best version of who they want to be. And we've got to give people, we were trying to create versions of people, not who we desire them to be, who they want to be. Leadership has long been defined as you know, a variety of things. Sometimes we like to call it, we're going to drag people to a spot. I'm going to lead you. Dragging people to a spot isn't leadership. What are your goals? What are your aspirations? Where do you want to get to? Leadership is then helping you achieve those things. If you do that, I will be successful in my organization or as in accomplishing the goals of what we're trying to get to. You do, if I help you get where you want to go, and we all agree that that's really about the best version of you, we will be the best version of us. The problem is we try and mix that around and we are so single-minded that I am going to be the only person right in the room. You will do what I want you to do. I'm going to grab you by the rope and we're going to drag you to a spot where we're all successful. It doesn't work that way. And that doesn't work. The other problem we get to is what I call the leadership injection. We all want to take the steroid shot or the injection shot of leadership. If we all go to the class and we all do the deal and we all answer the questions, we get the shot at the end of the class and that's supposed to hold us until the next shot. Things like that don't last. They don't last. What lasts? Relationships last. Those kind of emotions, relational pieces last. Injections don't last.
That's why you don't have a saying on your wall?
Words on a wall are hard to follow. They're really cool in books, right? Okay, so videos and stuff like that, we can put up discipline, toughness, you know, attitude, all that stuff. Words on a wall. If I ever wrote a book, which I won't, it would be titled Words on a Wall, what to get rid of or something. I don't know. Well, I'm going to get rid of them because I truly don't believe they work. I truly don't believe actions work. You got to back it up with actions. You know, I think you've got to match words and actions to be successful.
Excellent. Positive leadership. It's an area that we want to discuss. You know, what's the value of positive leadership to drive business results?
Well, I mean, I think that it's really hard to succeed from a position of fear. My son plays college golf, and I watched him walking down the fairways at one of his tournaments. He looked like the weight of the world was on his shoulders. And he'd been playing really, really well. And I asked him after, I said, what's wrong? He said, I just got a lot on my mind. I said, I got schoolwork, and it's coming down the end of my career, and you know, this and that. And my comment was, there are a lot of things and people out there that will try and steal your joy. They will try and steal your joy. This thing, you've been given a set of skills in your deal, whatever that is. I don't care whether it's golf, tennis, business, leadership as a whole. Every person has been given a set of skills. How do you find joy in the use of those skills? And you can't find it from a position of fear. You just can't. It doesn't work that way. There are times you will be scared. You will draw upon the success to get through the fear through the joy and the memories of the things that you created through encouragement. And I think that's so important, to be encouragers. And it's hard, because there's times I don't want to be the most encouraging person out there. I want to get after somebody's rear end for not doing what they're supposed to do. But then you get to those moments and you realize, when you see your own son in it or your own daughter, and you say, they needed someone to tell them they were pretty good. They're still pretty good. They will be pretty good. And they find their way through that. You got to be sacrificial in what you do. The servant leadership piece, I understand what servant leadership, how it's defined. I define it a little bit differently, and I call it sacrificial leadership. And I'm not sure it's coining anything new. Sacrificial leadership is simply, what will you do with what you know, and what will you do with what you have? We all have knowledge, have a wonderful knowledge. Most people have knowledge of a certain area. I'm not really gifted as it relates to science. Not my favorite deal. I'm more gifted as it relates to accounting and monies and producing revenue. Those kind of things are more my skill set. What will I do with that? I also have, you know, what do I have? Well, I have resources. Well, you know, I've been given things. I've got an opportunity to give to others. That's sacrificial in what I give back. And what we find is people that are sacrificial are usually pretty good leaders. People are sacrificial in the way they approach their life. Rather than servant, I'm sacrificial. Two different things. Okay, I can serve you, but if I'm sacrificial and I'm willing to give away what is mine, I become a better leader. And so, really, really important. So I challenge all our people to be sacrificial in your leadership, more so than just being a good servant.
Speaking of like change and communication, what's the importance of communication tools and tactics to drive change?
One more time, I'm sorry.
Communication tools and tactics, the
Yeah.
best communication to drive change, to get the team.
Oh, you know, I think that you got to find the balance. There's so many ways to communicate in today's world. You've got the technology piece. You can do it through video. You can do it through the social media. You can do it through text messaging, you know, Facebook. People respond. I think you've got to know who you're trying to reach, and you got to know how they want to be reached. Millennials are going to want to be reached much different than the generation I grew up in. All right. My fear is that the way we're trending, and we're losing the relational piece to communication. Where I tell all people as they apply to jobs at our place, they said, who are you going to hire? I said, I'll tell you who I'm going to hire. I'm going to hire people that can communicate with me, that have the ability to read, the ability to write, and the ability to listen at a high level. Because what I'm tending to find is people will send something to me, and you get something that is written in very poorly written, inability to transcend thought, and at the end of the day, really doesn't communicate the message you want to communicate. So what I encourage our young people today is be literate. Be really, really intelligent about the way you read and you write and you listen. You can have skills in other areas, but you got to be able to communicate. So how you communicate, that is, it can be technology driven, and you got to know there's some times where that's going to be the best window. It moves people to do things. They'll pay attention to that. Then you have the other side, where I think you've got to one-on-one, face-to-face, look people in the eye and be able to say, I agree with where you are, I disagree with where you are, you're not doing this way we want to get it done, you are failing in helping you be the best version of you, you're not going to get there doing it this way. So I think you got to be able to have those kind of conversations. But you got to know your audience, and I think it's very situational in what you do.
Last question.
Sure.
On leading high-performance teams is one of our areas. What's the importance of being responsible and accountable to those around you, and how do you ensure that happens? Accountability question.
Yeah, I mean, you know, it's accountability is one of the hardest things in terms of the day in and day out of what you do. I think that people say they want to be held accountable, but when you get to the real piece of it, no one wants to be held. They want to be able to do it as they want to do. You give someone a task. You know, I'm not sure there's a lot of times when people walk up and say, I didn't get it done the right way in today's world. So being able, the accountability piece is a lot about being able to have hard conversations about how you get to a spot. And that goes back to communication. I don't think you can do the accountability part if you haven't been an effective communicator relationally with people on the front end. Really, really difficult. If the relationship is merely one of a technology piece, you know, then the ability to walk in and say, you know what, we're probably failing in a couple of these areas, or we're not where we want to be, how do we get to a better spot? That gets to be very, very awkward and very, very difficult. I think you've got to be, have relationships, deposits, whatever you want to call it, in the bank to be able to hold people accountable on the backside and have that relationship be able to move forward. It's easy to walk in and tell somebody you failed, but if you don't have some of that in the bank, to be able to have the relationship go forward, you may change behavior for a period of time, but at the end of the day, the relationship may be scarred between you and that person, or they will just stiff arm you and say, you know what, I don't believe what you're saying, I'm going to continue to do my way, and then you'll never fix it. So accountability, I think you've got on the front end, establish the standard you're trying to get to. Be relational again, I go back to that word, relational in how you deal with your people, making deposits in them in terms of your time and your knowledge and the things that you want them to achieve. Ongoing dialogue about that. At the end, be able to have hard conversations if we're not where we want to be. And then you have an ability to move forward with the relationship.